You're not tired because of the things you did today. You're tired because your mind never shuts up. Think about it. How often do you lie down at night, hoping for rest, only to find your thoughts louder than ever? Conversations you never had play out in your head. You imagine arguments, rehearse explanations, and relive moments that happened years ago. Your heart beats faster, your muscles tense, your stomach churns, and yet you haven't moved an inch. This isn't rest. This isn't reflection. This is a psychological loop of overactivity, where your mind tricks you into believing you're solving something, when in reality, you're just bleeding energy. The cruel part? You've probably convinced yourself it's normal, that you're just a deep thinker. But overthinking is not intelligence. It's not wisdom. It's not preparation. It's anxiety in disguise. One of the biggest lies we believe is that overthinking is a sign of intelligence. That if you think about something long enough, you'll come to a better answer, a smarter plan, a perfect moment. But in truth, overthinking is the death of clarity. Unlike true thought, which aims to reach a conclusion, overthinking endlessly loops, feeding on itself and never offering peace. You spend hours dissecting small decisions, what to say, what to wear, what might happen if things go wrong. And the result? You feel more confused, more uncertain, and more frozen than when you began. Your mental energy is drained not because of how much you thought, but because none of that thought was anchored in action. It's like revving a car engine while stuck in park, loud, tiring, and ultimately going nowhere. At the root of overthinking lies something darker, fear. Not fear of failure alone, but fear of being caught off guard. Overthinkers live with the illusion that if they just plan enough, analyze enough, predict enough, they'll avoid pain. They believe that worry is a form of control, that anxiety is a kind of safety net, that if they imagine every possible scenario, they'll be prepared for anything. But the reality is brutal. Life doesn't reward the best plan. It rewards action. And while you're busy mapping out every turn, life moves on. Doors close, opportunities pass, and you remain stuck, not because you're incapable, but because you've tried to replace courage with calculation. You're not playing life safe. You're watching it from behind a glass wall. If you've ever felt exhausted before the day even begins, it's not because your body is tired. It's because your mind is overworked. Overthinking triggers the same stress response in your nervous system as actual danger. Your brain pumps cortisol, your body tightens, and your breath shortens, preparing you for a threat that doesn't exist. This constant internal tension slowly burns away your vitality. It ruins your focus, interrupts your sleep, and leaves you drained during conversations and decision-making. You're not lazy, you're mentally overclocked. And while the world tells you to just relax, you're trapped in a loop your brain has normalized, a loop that feels familiar, but it is killing your clarity and draining your life force. There's a hidden addiction most people never confront, the addiction to certainty. Overthinkers crave it like a drug. They need to know what's going to happen before they make a move. They want guarantees, clarity, and perfect conditions. And so, they wait, they plan, they second guess. But certainty never comes. Why? Because life isn't designed to be controlled. It's designed to be lived. In Søren Kierkegaard's words, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Overthinking tries to reverse this. It wants to understand everything before taking the first step. But the longer you stay paralyzed, the more your confidence fades, the more life passes you by, the more your dreams rot quietly in the waiting room of when I'm ready. The truth is, confidence doesn't precede the leap. It follows it. And the only real clarity you'll ever gain is found on the other side of action, not thought. Here's a dark psychological reality. Your brain doesn't always want resolution. Sometimes it wants repetition. Overthinking becomes a form of self-soothing, a mental ritual where you go over the same events, the same regrets, the same what-ifs again and again. You replay that embarrassing moment, that missed opportunity, that heartbreak, not to heal it, but because it's familiar. And familiarity gives the illusion of safety. But this is how the past becomes a cage. You trap your energy in a loop, convincing yourself you're processing, when in reality you're rehearsing your pain. You stay stuck not because healing is impossible, but because the mind is feeding on the wound, refusing to let it close. True thinking brings insight. Overthinking only deepens the scar. Let's talk about ego. Overthinkers often carry a hidden badge of pride. They see their constant mental activity as a sign of depth, of thoughtfulness, of intellect. I'm not indecisive, they tell themselves. I'm just smart. But this identity can be dangerous because it keeps you trapped in your own head. You start to believe that if you're not constantly analyzing, you're not being responsible. But wisdom isn't in endless analysis. It's in discernment. It's in knowing when to think and when to act. There's a quiet arrogance in believing that your thoughts are solving something simply because they're complex. But sometimes the simplest decisions, the ones made with intuition, clarity, and courage, carry more truth than 1,000 hours of mental gymnastics. Overthinking becomes a performance of intelligence, one that impresses no one and exhausts only you. Every time you overthink, something subtle and corrosive happens inside you. You send yourself a signal. I don't trust myself. This signal, repeated over time, becomes your identity. You start to question your instincts. You fear your own opinions. You become hesitant, unsure, dependent on others to validate your every move. The more you hesitate, the more you doubt. The more you doubt, the more you hesitate. And soon, your confidence isn't just low, it's gone. You become a shadow of yourself, not because you lack potential, but because you've given your mind too much power over your will. Overthinking doesn't just delay action. It rewires you to believe that you're incapable of action altogether. There is a way out, but it won't come from more thinking. It begins with radical self-awareness. You have to recognize the loop as it's happening and interrupt it with movement. Start by shrinking the gap between thought and action. Don't wait until you feel ready. You won't. Begin before that. Train yourself to make decisions quickly. Trust your gut more often. Set time limits for decisions. Take risks that feel slightly uncomfortable, not dangerous, just unfamiliar. And most importantly, accept the presence of fear. Overthinking tries to eliminate fear, but Courage is not the absence of fear. It's action in the face of it. You'll never escape the noise if you don't walk away from the speaker. Overthinking is a prison with invisible walls. You don't even know you're trapped because you're allowed to decorate it. You can read books about your problems. You can talk endlessly about what you might do. You can stay busy with analysis and call it progress, but deep down you feel it, that dull ache, that quiet despair, that longing to just begin. This is your sign to choose discomfort over delay, action over anxiety, presence over paralysis. Because the harsh truth is, your life is being drained, not by the hard things you do, but by the 100 things you think about doing and never start. The door to freedom isn't locked. It's just waiting for you to stop thinking about it and walk through.